Three.
Recording in progress.
You heard it. We're live. So
Cool.
I starting up my trying to get back into my YouTube channel as we were talking about offline.
Right.
I have a super special guest that I'm yeah, super excited to have.
Who's your guest?
Mr. Conrad Keely.
Oh, I'm the guest.
You are the
I'm the
guest. You're gonna be
guest.
talking and you're teaching us a painting class.
Right. I'm like the punk rock Bob Ross.
Yes, this is gonna be like ASMR. You're gonna be talking to us about
Yeah.
your music, your lyrics,
I'm
and
the
at the same time teaching us how to paint.
I'm the Bob Ross of weird fantasy art.
Yeah, so you said you had some time, so I kind of have some general questions, some outline and nothing too
Sure, sure.
more crazy, but
Don't
yeah,
worry, I'm used to crazy.
yeah. So first of all, happy post inauguration day.
Who got inaugurated? Oh yeah, King Charles. That was really cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, freaking wild.
I'm not an American citizen, so I kind of just like watch the drama like a what do they call that? An armchair quarterback.
Yeah. But
Uh,
you're living in Texas right now, right?
yeah, yeah. I've lived in America all my life. I'm gonna eventually get my citizenship, probably really soon. Um, but I'm actually an Irish citizen.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and to be honest, the only reason I never got my American citizen was I am one of those stereotypical Irish people who was raised proud to be Irish, and so I just wanted to stay Irish. Isn't that a crazy reason?
Yeah. Well, I thought I was reading like your Wikipedia and I saw your social media posts. I thought you were living in Cambodia for at some point.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, my dad's from Thailand, and so when I lived out there,
Uh,
I was kind of close to my Thai family, and well, I mean close in proximity. Uh, so, so, but also, yeah, I was there because the music scene was so awesome. That was my impetus to remain in Cambodia. At the time, it had an amazing music scene.
mm.
It's kind of mellowed out a bit now because at least my friends have told me because of the well, after the pandemic, a lot of things had shut down and stuff, and a lot of music people had moved away. So, but I have a feeling it'll start up again, just because it was a type of place that just had that energy, you know, energy and synergy.
Are they like, is the music scene there like, are you talking about like rock music in general or kind of all types of genres or?
It definitely had all types. It had a really cool rock tradition. Not I think people have started to kind of like know more about it, but during the uh, during the late '60s and early '70s, it had the kind of Cambodian psych rock scene happening, and that was a really special time that is still I know celebrated by the musicians that are live there and stuff. So you'll always hear Pan Ron, Cincy Smith, and um, I'm forgetting it, one name. Pan Ron, Cincy Smith, and uh, Ross Satia. I might be mispronouncing it,
Those are
but
the
they're like the kind of like the three, you know, the great uh, Cambodian musicians at that time that unfortunately had really tragic ends due to the Khmer Rouge and the genocide.
mm,
But it's a heavy story. But their music is still,
yeah.
played everywhere. Um, and you'll hear bands like Dengue Fever, doing the songs from that era and stuff. Yeah.
Is Dengue Fever, are they a Cambodian band? I've heard of them before.
Well, they're from LA,
Ah,
but she's from Cambodia. And so the first time I saw them was in Cambodia. We became friends when they played over there. They would often go over there and do like several gigs, and so I got to know them through that.
awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'll have
Yeah,
to check out some of that Cambodian rock because I
yeah,
have.
you should check it out. What it's called? Gosh, is it just called Cambodia Rocks? It might be. There's like a five volume compilation. You can. I think it's called Cambodia Rocks.
Yeah. I mean, that's straight to the point.
Yeah.
And what are you working on there? What's your I was trying to zoom in and see what your
Mm.
yeah, what's your art
So
subject?
so right now I'm doing like a series of it's kind of like a series of these it's like a female. Hold on, let me see if I can switch the camera.
Yeah.
So I like to do things in themes, and so the current theme that I'm using right now is kind of like this rider, this female rider on a horse, and she's just kind of like um going to different locations. The first one, here, I'll walk you through the living room with all the art stuff in it, is
Oh
Lou
yeah.
Reed. And then this was the first one in that series. I'm not sure if you can see that,
Yeah.
which I just finished the other day. And so from that kind of theme, oh, this is another recent one. I like that one. That came up. So from that theme came this idea that I would just keep. So here, this was another theme that I had was the wandering person, just kind of like wandering around. Um, I had a series of like rock star portraits and stuff. But so yeah, I try to keep things thematic, and I don't always. I don't like go out of my way to overanalyze, subject matter. Like I'm not saying like, oh, this I'm doing this because of, this reason or that reason. But I was thinking about one of the things that I'll do coming up will be maybe in this theme would be like a portrait of Lady Godiva, who's this British legend. But she was from Coventry, and I was born in a place called Nuneaton, which is just outside of Coventry, and so it has a regional significance. That's about as deep as I'll get into my.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man, that's awesome. I mean, you've got a lot of art in there and yeah, I completely respect. I know going through all your albums, like artwork was always a really big thing from yeah, because you I think you did all the album covers, right?
Most of them I didn't do. Well, the first one was just ripped off of from a National Geographic cover. Um, did I do? And then Worlds Apart, I designed it, but the original collage that because we're on Interscope Records and there's like all these like it has to go through like a legal department to be able to pass. Uh, so we had somebody paint the design that I made, pretty much, but it had to be original art. And these days, I would have just painted that myself, but at the time, like there was no way. I just didn't have the time to do it. So we hired some artist, and unfortunately, I kind of lost track of where that piece is because I never we never owned the original of that. Because it would be nice to have that painting, but I did all the other ones.
You're saying
Yeah.
Interscope did not let you guys use your own artwork for
No, no, no. It was because that if you look at that painting on the cover of Worlds Apart, it's a collage of lots and lots of different things, and some of them were copyright images or whatever, or kind of like versions of copyright images, and so the legal department told us that we couldn't just use the collage straight. but we could get an artist to paint that collage.
Mm,
Otherwise, I would you would you know I mean, in order to have used the original collage, we would have had to have gone to each source of every single image on it and gotten permission, and that
right.
would have taken forever. So it
Yeah.
was easier to just get an artist to just make a rendition of that of the exact same collage that I designed. So
Got it. Okay. Very cool.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, getting back into I guess maybe we'll ask more specific questions on your music. Again, I saw you guys for the first time, I want to say in 20, it would have been before the pandemic, so maybe 2019, you played in Berkeley. I was living in the Bay Area then. Yeah,
okay.
you guys played, I can't remember the name of the venue, but you were playing Madonna in its entirety that night. So
Lady Madonna, children at your feet.
So I don't know if that rings a bell of like Berkeley, maybe 2019, but yeah, that's when I saw you guys. And
Okay.
I was near the front, so
All right.
yeah. Um
Um, it was probably, was it okay? Did we suck?
you guys totally sucked, man. I mean, it was just no,
I remember that show.
yeah, I was yeah, I mean it was a smaller venue. And
Okay.
I don't know if my ears were prepared for the onslaught of sound that you guys brought.
Word, word.
Yeah. But yeah,
Well,
no.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It was my I think it was my last concert before the pandemic started. So yeah, it
Oh,
left.
wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, so some of the questions I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
So for all the albums that you guys produced, I was wondering if you could just kind of give me a brief kind of um overview or kind of like what your headspace was at when you were working through each album, kind of like a maybe a major memory or something that you just associate with that album. So we'll just go chronologically, starting with what is the name of the first album? Was that self-titled?
Yeah, that was self-titled.
Okay, good on
That
me.
shit was self-titled.
Yeah, so that was 1990. All right,
That was the 90s, man. I don't even remember the 90s.
let's see. So Madonna came out in 99, so that would have been what, 97, 98 when that
I think it
released?
was around 97. Yeah, 97 sounds about right. Yeah, that's a ticket. Headspace, shit. I don't even remember, to be honest. I was a little young at the time. Um, I mean, I just remember that we were, um, gosh,
I
you're
remember,
asking me what my headspace was at
yeah,
that?
just like, do you have a memory that you associate with that album that's like, you hear that music and it kind of brings you back to like, hey, I remember I was going through these things, or is it just kind of like a blur?
Um, okay, well, that album was recorded in this guy's house that a friend of ours, Frenchie, his friend was like, I guess like kind of the producer there. And the guy was out of town. And so they were able to like kind of sneak us in. This kind of became a pattern. Um, but they were able to get us to get in there for no money, I guess, or like very little money. I think um, because we had a very minimal record budget at the time, and so uh, but the studio was actually a house, like it literally was that person's house. So upstairs was like his living room, and the studio was down in the basement. And so, it being a basement apartment, um, it had like a bathroom in it, which I at the time thought would be really cool to get that reverb, the bathroom tile reverb, like makes it sound like you're singing in a bathroom.
Hmm.
And at the time, me never having produced my own record before, I just thought that was just such a clever idea. Well, make it sound like a bathroom. But ever since then, people have always commented that the vocals sound like they were recorded in a bathroom, and the reason being because they were. And I just realized that once you have that vocal that sounds like that, you can't really do anything other than it sounding like that. So you can't, get rid of that reverb. Maybe there's some kind of like
Yeah.
plug in now that will allow you to take away reverb. I don't know. But so that's kind of the reason that sounds like that, is like it literally was recorded in the bathroom. And that was my bright idea at the time.
Okay, so no studio trickery. It was just all organic bathroom sounds.
It was just in a bath. It was like yeah, it was like in the shower. It was recorded in the shower stall of that
Yeah.
house.
It does have a specific sound to it that I would say the other albums don't have. Um, you also got a lot of comparisons to, and I am just blanking on their name. What is their name? They did was it Daydream Nation? Was that the name of
Oh,
the album?
Sonic Youth.
Sonic Youth. I remember,
Yeah,
yeah, when I was listening to the album, I kind of got a little bit of vibes of that, and I think a lot of
I think at the time Sonic Youth would have been like the band that we as a band could all. There was a couple bands that the four of us could kind of like, that was our primary connection, or
influence.
yeah. The other one would have been the Who.
Hmm.
We're all very big into the Who, but yeah. So Sonic Youth was kind of that band that we unified around, and I definitely wanted to, you know, they weren't. They weren't a band that that many people were, I don't know, copying. I guess not that was a consideration. Well, maybe it was a consideration, but at the time it was like, no one else was deliberately trying to sound like Sonic Youth, and I don't think that many people are even now. But there were a lot of bands that were trying to sound like Nirvana, and so that was never like, we weren't trying to do that.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, Sonic Youth was
Yeah.
never, I never saw them as like really trying to appeal to like commercial, hey, play this on the radio. I mean,
Right, right.
so
And
if
that's
another band
probably,
trying to emulate them, I don't see that as like, hey, we're really trying to make it big by imitating a sound that isn't necessarily like super radio friendly, but
yeah. I mean, for me, it had more to do, well, I mean, obviously, like we had that kind of thing, like with the guitar tunings and stuff, but I also just really like their melodic sensibility. Um, it's not always an easy thing to kind of describe, but there was something about their chord choices and stuff that were just kind of, they were cool. They weren't they were very unbluesy, I guess you could say, and the way that they approached their kind of arrangements, it was never, just simple verse chorus type stuff. It would, they would diverge into these stratospheric kind of
yeah,
chord, yeah, like instrumental things and stuff. And so that was another one of the things that I really liked about it. Was, the unpredictability that you experience when you first listen to a Sonic Youth song had to do with just, they weren't typical,
wasn't verse, chorus, verse, and just yeah, it
Yeah, so a song like, Catholic Block, and how it would just go into this beautiful, strange, instrumental time thing, where the time signature would change, the tempo would change, and then, Lee Ronaldo would do something really crazy on the guitar. Yeah, those types of things that just, made the music unpredictable. And I think that was kind of what we were trying to do at a time when, kind of like, I guess, pop punk was starting to really, think. things more like
Yeah.
Green Day were kind of like blowing up at the time.
Yeah, funny you say that. I in my kind of notes for things I wanted to talk about, I wanted to get your reactions to certain artists, and I didn't have Green Day on here, but I wanted to. Yeah, funny you talk about pop punk. Bands like
Uh,
Blink 182 was for me. That was kind of like my first band growing up. And so
right,
it was like something that, hey, they're super popular on the radio. And I've always been interested in like hearing what other artists have to say about other bands. And so I'm
right.
kind
I
of,
think that by the time they came around, even Green Day, um, I wasn't that impressed, and the reason was because we'd already gotten into a band called The Descendants
yeah,
years before them. And so I just thought that these other bands were just kind of like copying what the Descendants had already done before. And the Descendants were the first band I thought that ever had that sound like of
kind of a pop.
punk that was really poppy,
Yeah.
right? And then also because we're also big Replacements fans, and they kind of done like a very had very poppy sensibility as well. And so I kind of didn't understand why these new bands, at the time, Blink 182 and Green Day would have been fairly new bands. I didn't understand why they were getting all this, popularity and stuff, where the bands that I kind of, would have said that they were taking that from were still, you know, in obscurity, as it were.
I mean,
So
I think obviously Green Day and Blink 182 were definitely doing the polished kind of like image. I think was a big thing, a part of their success, right? They did the music videos, their hairstyles, outfits, like it was very, I feel, consciously packaged so that it,
yeah,
you know, that's kind of like my take why they kind of took off.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, there's many reasons. It wasn't cut and dry, but when I've read the Replacements biography, and kind of when you read about who those guys were, and the way that they thought of themselves, you kind of get the impression that they could never have done what Green Day or Blink 182 did. They just didn't have they didn't want to be popular. In fact, they really wanted to be assholes. If you kind of read the descriptions of what they were like as people, they just seemed like they were the type of people that would just barge into an A&R record exec's office and just trash the place or something. And and so they had like that kind of original uh,
Punk rock, like
yeah, that real punk rock ethos where like if you're trying to become popular and make a lot of money, then you weren't punk rock. And I would say that even what was the other band that I mentioned? Descendants were kind of part of that generation too. So I don't; those bands weren't trying to be the next, um, you know, because back when they were around, the popular bands would have been like Bon Jovi, like so they associated that type of success with hair metal, and they wouldn't have wanted that. So I think that kind of was part of it.
so can I get you on video for 5 seconds to sing a Blink 182 song that pops into your head?
No, I mean probably because I can't remember one or think of one.
All the small things?
I don't know any of their songs by name.
All the small things. No.
Nah,
Okay. Well, that's fine. Or
but
Green Day.
you
What
can
about
get
Green
me
Day?
singing. You could get me singing. She came from somewhere back in it long ago. See. I just watched that Dad Rock documentary. It was funny.
Tell our viewers who
No, Yacht Rock.
yacht rock.
Yeah, the documentary about Yacht Rock.
Oh,
It's Michael McDonald. Uh, Never mind.
We'll have to check that out.
It's the Doobie Brothers. You haven't seen that?
Uh, I had a very sheltered childhood, and part of
Oh
that childhood was I missed out
no.
on a lot of movies.
Really? So you missed out on Steely Dan?
Actually, my dad listened to Steely Dan, and I have a very vivid memory of
Good
him
on him.
putting on some Steely Dan. So I have to credit him for
Word.
that one. Yeah, Steely Dan.
All right. Well, then he raised you well.
Yeah, it's not just Blink 182. Um, so let's jump into Madonna. What's going on with Madonna? Where how has things changed?
Oh, well, in the same sense that we were kind of stealing studio time, that was another um, album or where we didn't have a record budget, we didn't even have a label, kind of like now, and we didn't, know how we were going to make the music that we wanted to make. So, someone that we knew, Mike McCarthy, who would go on to be our producer, at the time was working at a studio that he had access to late at night, and he could sneak us in. This was Ham Studio that was owned by Bill Hamstein, the manager of ZZ Top, and so that was kind of how that came about. And because the sessions were so intermittent, because he didn't always even know when we'd be able to get in there. Um, it ended up that we would record whenever we could, and that's why it took like 9 months to finish that record, and that was just because we had to just sneak into the studio when we could.
9 months compared to what was the first album? How long did that take?
Oh, the first album would have been done. That was done. I don't know, maybe in a couple days in that studio.
Oh,
I'm not positive, but it wasn't. It was really fast,
hmm.
very very fast. A
Okay.
couple days of recording, a couple days of mixing somewhere else, like doing the overdubs. The whole thing was done in a week. But Madonna, we had, I don't know if you'd call it the luxury of time, because it wasn't really a luxury. It was the only thing that we had, the only way we were able to work. So we would just kind of get in there and just, work. But what it ended up doing was it gave us a lot of time to, think about those songs and how they were going to come out. And so as a result, that album was a lot more, I don't know, fully realized, I suppose,
Yeah, I
when it
definitely
came
feel like
out.
that album. Yeah, it feels more like yeah, like it took a longer time to record, honestly.
It did, yeah. So that was why. I mean, that was one of the reasons. Was it just like we lived with those songs for so long before they ever saw the light of day. And the fact that they did was just serendipitous because the person that had helped us one of our friends, was a sound guy for the band Superchunk, who were Merge Records, and he just played it for them while they're on the touring, and they liked what they heard. And so that was how we got in touch with Merge Records. Um, so yeah, that was just kind of like happenstance. We ourselves weren't necessarily shopping our the record around. We I don't know what our plan was, to be honest with you. I think we just had this kind of strange belief in ourselves that something would happen.
Yeah.
We just figured it would happen. Something would happen.
Um, do you have a favorite song off of that album that I don't know,
Not really. I mean, I guess the most personal for me was "Sire Children" for some reason. But I mean, I don't really have, I don't pick favorites of songs. I just, there's songs that I really enjoyed writing. That was one of them, and I enjoyed writing uh, Claire de Lune. You
Yeah.
know, they just had a they. they satisfied a kind of a need in me to create something that I thought was um, live up to my expectations as a songwriter, I suppose,
Yeah.
as a composer.
Say Your Children, that's the last song, right? On the album.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think that's probably one of my favorite ones off of that one. Um, and it's interesting because most of the songs on that album, I would say, are pretty aggressive.
Uh-huh.
And I think that one, it starts out very soft and slow. And actually at the concert I went to in Berkeley, I think you guys had like a disco ball going during that time. Like it's like, oh, we're getting ready for a slow dance here. I don't
We
know.
what?
Well, I just remember when you were
Oh,
playing that song when I went to the concert in Berkeley.
oh, we actually played it?
You did, yeah. 'Cause you
Oh,
played
wow,
that album in
interesting.
its entirety.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's a short song, but we don't usually play that one live. That's cool.
Yeah. I've also noticed that you guys tend to play a lot of your older materials a lot more than I would say what might be considered typical for other like bands. I've noticed most bands tend to have like a very predictable set list and tends to be like hits and not a lot of deep cuts. But I've seen a lot of
Uh-huh.
like, YouTube, and I don't know if you guys intentionally do it, but I have kind of noticed that you dig into your deep cuts a lot, and especially off of like Madonna. I don't know if that is intentional or is just
I mean, I guess for me it's just like, you know, the whole thing about being a band and stuff is just so I don't know. There's got to be something that makes it interesting, you know? And
yeah,
so for me, it's like I have to play music that or play the songs that I find still kind of interest me or that challenge me or, you know, otherwise the whole thing would be rather tedious. Um, and so that's probably the reason behind that.
well, I've also had a burning question for well, just kind of bands in general, but do you ever get sick of playing the same songs? Like, is there a time you're just like, man, I cannot sing this stupid song anymore, or and you feel like you have to do it just for the fans, or is that not a thing once you get on stage?
I mean, it depends. You know, there are songs that we've played a million times, and I still love playing them. That's not really what I get sick of, to be honest with you. What I get sick of, I would say, is dealing with people in the record industry
Hmm.
and the music industry. Um, that's far more annoying and depleting of energy than having to play the same song. I could play the same song all day if I had to, but having to deal with incompetent managers and labels that don't know what the fuck they're doing and like not uh, not promoting albums when they say they are going to be, and just the marketing teams that have no idea how to market you. That is the worst thing about music. Not having to play songs for your fans. That's like the best thing. You know, I love that. I would never complain about
Yeah,
being able to get up on stage, but then you know the horrible reality of that is that in order to do that you also have to put up with all these like fucking idiots that just don't know what they're doing and they don't really they're just trying to their impetus is to keep their job, and to make sure that their company doesn't fold. There it has nothing to do with whether they like your music, even though they'll tell you that they like your music. That's kind of like that's part of their job too. Oh, we love your band. You'll really get sick of hearing that when you're in the music industry. Um, but so yeah, for me, the good part is being able to get up on stage and get and play
yeah,
for the audience, being able to play those songs all the time. And the part that makes it insufferable is having to, the stuff that the fans don't see. Does that
yeah.
make sense?
No, it makes it makes absolute. I mean, I am not in a rock band. I have a soul crushing day job. Um, So I mean, obviously, there's things I like about it, but yeah, it's the all the peripheral stuff that you don't see. That yeah, kind of makes you question like, wait, why do I have to deal with this stuff? All the formality.
Yeah. And
Um,
so now it's like we're in this situation where like there's not even record labels have to, they as if they weren't hustling before. Now they're really like, trying to compensate for the fact that they can't, make returns on this music. And so, of course, the artist is always the one that are suffering for that. Um, and so, I mean, I'm just glad that we got to be on the tail end of the music era that we did, because trying to be an independent musician now must be like so fucking hard. Um, and that's why I am painting instead of in a studio.
you have to think that don't you have to kind of game the whole like it seems like a lot of hits come through TikTok now, right? Or
I have no idea. I don't know, and I don't fucking care. Uh, as far as I can concern, the whole music industry can go fuck itself. I really don't give a fuck about it.
Yeah, it has changed so much. I mean, from an outsider's perspective, I would have to think that it has changed a lot with streaming music, Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok. Things just, you don't really take in an album as you like, you don't go to the store, you don't go to Tower Records and buy a physical album and then, you sit down with it. Or, I mean, in my case, I only do.
No, but I mean that's just how it is, and things change, and
Yeah.
we can accept that change. I mean those aren't bad changes. I mean there are ways that now that we learn to consume music and discover music that weren't possible back in the day, but it's still the same.
Yeah.
I still listen to the radio. I still listen to jazz radio. I still listen to classical radio, and I love the feeling of listening to something that I at least can you know imagine that there are other people listening to it at the same time, so it doesn't feel like some kind of like um, isolated experience where I'm just the only person listening to this playlist on whatever. So that's always nice, and I've still discovered great music on by listening to music that way. Um, so
Well, I mean, I discovered you guys through the internet, and actually, it was through Pitchfork that I found you guys. I was just randomly, I used to follow that blog a lot, and I think
uh-huh.
there was a list of like top 100 albums of, was it the 2000s or something? And I think you guys were like right up there, like the top, I don't know, top 50 or something. I think even
Well,
higher. And and it
thank you,
was
Pitchfork.
and it was Source Tags, which is a good segue into your next album. That was the first album I heard of you guys.
All right. Uh,
And they famously gave you guys a 10 on Pitchfork. Um,
a
so
10 out of what? 100?
you must have known that you must have known that they famously do not give 10 out of 10 very easily, right?
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's what I hear. I don't really, to be honest, I don't read music reviews at all. I never have. I'm more
Were you,
likely to read a book review.
were you familiar with Pitchfork at all? Like at the time when
Not
Source?
until that happened.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't have been somebody that picks up a Rolling Stone, like I just don't do that. Um,
What do you think led to you guys blowing up? Because okay, so for context, so Jimmy Iovine is head of Interscope at this time, right? This is like 2002.
yeah, that was before he segued into making headphones for a living.
Right. So I was wondering if you could talk about that. Like you were on the phone with him. I'm assuming you met with him, and I think I was reading some articles that he saw your band live and he was just blown away. And he's like, "We got to sign these guys." Like, can you talk about how they approach you guys? Like, how did that happen?
I mean, that was pretty much it. That was at a South by Southwest, and he said he really got our band. And so next thing we know, we're on a major label. Um, I'm afraid there's really not much of a story there. I wish I could. I wish I could tell
I
you
mean, well, okay,
an
so
amusing anecdote to go along with that, but I really
well,
can't.
so Jimmy Iovine, he's like super. The man's pretty wealthy, I would assume now, and I see him hanging out with like Dr. Dre. So I mean, what was
Oh
he like?
yeah, they were hanging out back then. Shit, yeah. Dre was all. Yeah, he was all up in that place. Yeah, it was cool. Um,
Did you bump
I
up with him
mean,
around then, or
what's that?
I mean, would you see Dr. Dre? Would you like bump elbows a lot with Jimmy Iovine, or like what was the? You don't have any stories you can tell about that, or
I mean, it's just LA, and there's a lot of long drives and sushi dinners. Um, but I think the thing about that time at Interscope was it really was a pretty exciting time to be on that label, and there was a lot of really crazy music that was happening. Um, we being probably the least of it, I mean, there was like, damn, it was nuts.
yeah,
Just all the other artists that were making names for themselves and
a lot of pop
doing
artists, right, on Interscope.
doing yeah, but like the back when pop was good, it was like fucking Mary J. Blige and Gwen Stefani were doing that one song, and then there was like the what do you call it? The Black Eyed Peas were doing their thing, and then there's just it
Yeah.
was a much more interesting time in music, and I think that like pop music at that time was also um, I don't know, it was just viable. You could tell one song apart from the other, and I think that that's probably one of the things that has happened lately is just this like insane homogenization of the sound of music that it just doesn't sound, there's nothing to distinguish a lot of artists from one another these days. At least maybe I've just lost my musical ear and I'm unable to do so. But back then, um, a pop song would come on, like, and I'd like it, Justin Timberlake with what's his name with Black, oh baby, bring it all to me. I don't want your baby. All that stuff was it was hooky and good, and hip hop was pretty awesome back then. Um, what the fuck happened?
I mean, we got I was wondering of your opinions on current music, like I don't know, Post Malone. Um, who are
I
some
just fucking stay the fuck away from it.
you don't so you don't
Um,
listen to any like current radio, like just like pop radio or
Fuck no. Hell
interesting.
no.
So Sabrina
Um,
Carpenter, who's popular?
Jesus Christ. There's these like two old dudes on YouTube I think that are funny because they rap. They're like these old guys in the UK. And they go, what about this? And they're pretty funny. Um, who do I listen to that is actually still living? Hard to say.
No current pop act.
The
Like let me
Oh,
just
there's this girl named Alexandra Whitaker. She's a classical guitar player.
okay.
I don't think she writes her own music, but I really like the stuff that she does.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I just know I can't think of a single. Let me think about it,
Yeah,
and maybe I can email you if I think of one single current artist that I can tolerate. Um,
yeah.
but my intolerance level these days is through the roof.
I like I like opinionated people, and yeah. um, Bad Bunny. Have you heard of him?
Is that a movie?
No, it's like so Latin pop is really blown up. So it's like a
Yeah.
Spanish
I mean,
art.
you could go ahead and try to name like 100 artists, and I just wouldn't know any of them. I mean, the ones that I do know, I definitely probably wouldn't like or want to hear. Um, but
Yeah,
I'm not saying that other people that I know don't like music. It's good for them if it makes them happy. I'm not gonna like. I would
right.
never begrudge anybody to their listening experience, but right now I guess I'm just working on a lot of instrumental stuff. So um, I don't know. I don't know what that means. It just means that my head's in a space that doesn't really have much room for stuff
Yeah.
that I need to,
Yeah.
learn to appreciate.
Okay. Okay. Um, so going back to Source Tags the album, maybe we can just talk about some of the music. I'm just looking
Yeah.
at the track list here. It was there that I saw you. Amazing opener of an album. I think that was the first song I ever heard of you guys. Because yeah, so I read the Pitchfork article. Um, I,
What
I
article?
the Pitchfork
Oh, the
article.
pitch. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I read that. I read the album review, and I got hyped. I'm like, I want to throw this on, and I remember that was I still remember driving my car in Fresno, California. If you've ever been there, and it was there that I saw you came on. So,
Okay. Is that a
um,
story about? Oh, about your car.
no, well,
Oh, okay. So that's what
I'm
happened.
just telling you, like when I first heard it,
Oh,
I
okay.
wasn't. I'm from Fresno, California. I grew
Oh,
up.
okay. I
Currently live.
thought you meant something bad. Something bad happened while you're driving in your car listening to.
No, no, there's no crazy story other than I
You
just
didn't get pulled over.
didn't get pulled over. I was just going to like a work. Yeah, they're like, turn down that music. That's too loud. No, nothing crazy like that. But that's just the memory I have. Is I was in my car and that was the first song of you guys that I heard.
Okay.
And I
Cool.
probably from that time forward, I probably literally listened to you guys like 5, 6 years straight. Like there probably wasn't a week that went by that I didn't hear like one of your songs. So I was,
Not a week goes by. Uh-huh.
um,
Cool.
so there was that, Another Morning Stoner. That was maybe your first single.
I don't really know. I can't reckon. Can't really remember. It's something like that. But I'll
Um,
take your word for it.
yeah, yeah. Um,
I'm sorry. I'm
it's funny
sorry
how
that
like
yeah.
you find it funny how there's fans that obsess over your stuff, and then like the people that actually create the content, such as yourself, is like, I don't know, it was like back then, and
I mean, I guess it's, but well, I've just come to realize this. Like, I've never been a music fan in the way that people have been fans of my music. I've never wanted to like line up in front of a show for like hours. I would never like drive really far to see a band. I don't collect people's set lists or autographs. I've never been that. But what I have been is uh, a musician, meaning like a student, like I study music and I want to learn things about composition that I don't know, and I want to learn things about production and that are still relevant. But that doesn't make me a fan of the bands that make that stuff. Like maybe if they've been around for like 50, 60 years, would I say that I'm like a Beatles fan? I mean, I don't even know that I would have stood in line for the Beatles, to be honest with you. I just hate standing in line.
yeah,
Um, but so like I don't have that experience of fandom that a lot of other people have, even other musicians I know of that can talk about how they're fans of this or that, and I just
yeah,
like if there is something that I really respected or liked, it was more than likely that I would almost feel kind of competitive for towards it, which would stop me from being a fan. It would almost be like, oh well, I got to do something better than that, or I've got to one up that somehow. Um,
hmm.
but but that never took away from my love and appreciation of music, because I feel like that music and art are so much greater and so much more important, I suppose, than the people that create it, myself included. That we are insignificant. Our bands are insignificant, and us as individuals have no significance at all. And that'll become very clear once we're dead. Um, but what is significant is the fact that we can create. That is the most significant thing, and it speaks volumes to the indelible nature of the human spirit. Um, so when people kind of like get caught up in this whole thing about the stories and biographies of bands and people that make that artists, I understand it. I understand why they do, and I understand why they think it's important. Uh, Especially to be able to relate and identify with some of these people. But um, to me, I guess the music is or the art itself is important, and the people behind it are just kind of like the I don't know, the vessel or
Yeah.
the channel for it. Um,
Yeah,
so
that makes complete sense. And I would say maybe coming from someone who is really struggles with being kind of musically talented. I grew up trying to play piano. I
right,
took guitar lessons and trying to, I mean, I can mimic chords and like read music, but creating something is like something entirely different. And so if I was creative, such like you, I think I might have a similar attitude. Like, I'm not going to stand in line for a band when I can create my own music and I can be the one standing in front of, crowds.
right.
So
I mean, I don't even stand in line for barbecue. I think that's crazy.
for barbecue.
Um, Yeah, people like fucking stand in line for barbecue here. Come on.
Yeah,
Anyway,
well, yeah,
um,
you're Texas. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, barbecue.
the
Yeah.
only thing I like standing in line for is the queue to the security gate at the airport. I'll put up with that.
You you'll put up with it, but you don't like it.
I don't like it.
Okay.
uh,
Yeah. No, but you're right though. That's an interesting viewpoint about you being like the vessel that channels the music. Because yeah, sometimes if you like talk with someone you've idolized and then you realize, oh, they're just kind of like a normal person like me, it kind of like demystifies and what's the word? Like maybe you're not as high on a pedestal. Like once you kind of like say, oh, they're just a human too, you know. Um,
well, yeah, of course they are. I
yeah,
mean, why wouldn't they be?
you're a human.
Um, so yeah, but I mean, I guess the other thing is that we often get asked about things from our past and stuff, but those do to me feel just so kind of like they are part of the past, and they're not part of like I guess what I would consider myself working, developing now as an artist. It's like I understand that people know that album to be our the what we're best known for,
Yeah.
but that's just something that I happen to have done a long time ago, and it's not what I I don't think of myself as like, oh, I'm the guy that wrote that song. I think of myself as like I'm the person who's painting this. You
Interesting.
know, that's where my head's at. I'm my art now is
Well,
uh is different than you know
that's
it's not about trying to recapture something that I did before, certainly not in the 90s.
interesting. Yeah. Um, yeah, that I mean,
I
as a
hope that didn't
current
deflate your next question.
no, no, no. Not at all. I mean, I it yeah, it's yeah, you are known for that album. You're known that's kind of like your what's the word? Magnus what how does
God,
English
I hope it's not.
yeah.
If that was my magnum opus, then I might as well just fucking die now.
So it sounds like
But
you don't really live in the past. You're all about your current headspace and your current work. You're not really looking back.
well, I'm pretty sure that science has proven that you can't live in the past.
Probably right.
Only our minds get stuck in that, but my mind isn't stuck in the past. No fucking way.
But when you're
Um,
playing that song, that doesn't because I mean I'm assuming you're still playing those. Actually, I don't know. Are you guys touring now or
no, no,
there's no current?
we don't have a bloody audience, mate. We've got no audience, no record label, and no management. We've got no bloody fan base.
You've got a fan base. You still got a fan base. You still got a
We have a
fan
fun base.
base. I mean,
Um,
I think some of it is just rock in general as a genre just isn't popular anymore. I think that's a function of
I don't
it.
know. Yeah,
I know, but I think
but
you have huge fans in like Germany, right? They're known for rock
I
music.
mean the fans themselves have gotten huge. I don't. Their numbers haven't, but um, it's like even trying to get to Germany these days is a logistic nightmare. I mean, that's one of the reasons we stopped touring was because the last tour was such a financial disaster. Just trying to make that thing happen. It wasn't because we didn't have fun. We had a fucking blast, but it was just a disaster. Like we ended up paying so much money for it. Of course, that had to do with the label and the management that we parted ways with right afterwards. But it's just like it's not easy. It's not as easy as it was back then to make touring as viable a thing. And so rather than, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to like pay so that I can play, so that I can play in front of an audience. If
Sure.
they ever want to, pay us the right amount of money and make a guarantee that'll make it so that we won't, lose our ass, then yeah, of course I'll go back on tour, or, and do the whole song and dance thing. But I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna pay to do it. That's crazy, you know.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man.
But well, and it's one thing to kind of like understand it, but it's I don't think that people realize that there's this kind of like mentality that's happening in the music industry these days where they almost expect bands to pay to play,
I
and
didn't know.
that's become the norm, and that's really sad because you get this new generation of young artists growing up who think that they're like, oh yeah, I thought we are supposed to, like just pay to do this. Like, no, man, nah, they're supposed to pay you. They're supposed to pay you.
Well, yeah, I mean, how do you make money then? I guess you're selling merch and you're building your
The
maybe
merch doesn't make money. The merch in the last tour, what ended up happening was the merch paid for the disasters.
yeah.
It covered the disasters.
So it was
Like
really
when,
that it was really that financially bad on your last tour?
yeah, I wrote a blog about it. I'll send you a link to the blog. It's funny. It's
Uh,
funny now. It wasn't funny at the time.
huh. Would you say this past tour was like the only one like that or previous tour?
No, it had been, but it was one of the worst. But it had been kind of building up like that in a while for a while. And I
Mhm.
guess it just got to the point where like we finally had that conversation. I was like, yeah, we can't do this anymore. Um, I wouldn't say that the last one was pretty disastrous, like as disasters go. But even before that, we were losing money touring. We would not come back making money. Um, I'm not saying all bands experience this. Maybe other bands are just much better organized than we are, or they have management and labels that they can rely upon, but we didn't. And so we ended up just kind of like constantly and consistently losing money, and that went back years.
Do you think what
So
was like just the shift in like what was popular or what
I
would
don't
have
know. I mean, maybe I could just say it was us. We're to blame. That would be the easy answer. Um, but who knows? I mean, I don't know what it's like these days. I would. I just feel. I know that I feel bad for a lot of these bands that, you know, but the bands that I'm still friends with that, kind of like come back and say, yeah, we didn't get, nobody bought merch or whatever.
Hmm.
It can be tough out there. But then, there are other bands that are doing great. So I think as far as touring band goes, if anyone needs any unsolicited advice from me, it does help to be in a genre. and that's something that we never had. We've never been in a genre. But if you're in a genre, like say you're a heavy metal band or stoner rock band or whatever, pick a genre, stick
Yeah.
to it, and you'll have an automatic fan base. But that was something that we deliberately never did because we didn't want to be in a genre.
Well, that's actually what attracted me to your band was a lot of your music was like unexpected. Like it would take unexpected turns. I'm like, wait, I thought this was this type of music. Like actually going from source tags to worlds apart, um, there was actually I would say a more noticeable shift in kind of genres was So Divided. Like that, I was hearing a lot of like Beatles influence.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite records to make, and it remains for me. That's one of my favorite records. I mean, that's probably one of the few records that we have that I actually listen to.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and the reason is because it just doesn't sound like us, so I can kind of like listen to that album and pretend it's other bands, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I was very proud of that one for that reason.
Because I feel like
Oh,
most
you
of
know what? I hate to cut this short, but my
yeah,
mother is coming over for dinner.
no problem.
Um, but we can pick up a second time if you want to do a part two to go over
Yeah,
the records that we
absolutely.
didn't cover.
Yeah, I had a lot of just random questions. I was gonna go over the rest of your albums. Maybe you have time for like just one more question, and maybe
Yes, absolutely.
let me just see if there was a burning question I had here that because we went over a lot of stuff and um listening to music outside your domain, hip hop, keep in touch with former bandmates, playing on Leno, Fallon, what
Lennon,
Lennon, uh,
Vladimir.
Leno, Wait, you were on Jay
Oh,
Leno
Jay
or it was
Leno.
Letterman?
Did
It
we
was
play
Letterman.
Jay Leno?
No, no, it was
I don't
Letterman.
remember playing Jay Leno.
Sorry, it was Letterman, right?
Yes, that I remember.
Yeah,
Yes, Paul Schaefer. What a fucking legend he is. What a guy.
yeah.
My
And you,
big one of my biggest regrets. He wanted to play keyboards on Relative Ways, and I for whatever I was nervous. I was fucking nervous. We're going on television, and I said no. And to this day, I'm like, man, should have let Paul Schaefer play on Relative Ways. That would have been so
well,
fucking cool.
why didn't you? What was?
I was nervous. Like, I mean, obviously I figured, well, he'd just have to learn the song. But dude, he's Paul Schaefer. Like, he could just, it's like four chords, no problem for him. But yeah, I mean, I was just so nervous getting up in front of those cameras. You can see in the performance how nervous I am. I look scared,
I was gonna ask you how that
terrified.
felt to be because I feel like that's prime time. You're on a national show. Like I can't
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it didn't help, like my nervousness was not helped by all the stuff around it. There was just a lot of expectations and from the label and people doing your wardrobe, your makeup and everything. It was just like very overwhelming. But I mean, I don't think I'd be nervous now. I would
I
do
thought you guys killed
whatever,
it,
it'd be
man. Like
fine.
you,
Thank you. I thought it sucked, but
yeah, you guys sounded well. I've noticed a lot of bands like when they play live and just like regular concerts. I feel like they don't put as much effort into sounding like polished like they do on the album. I thought you guys came
yeah.
like straight from better than the album. So in my eyes,
Wow.
yeah.
I mean, I think we had to even like uh, mo transpose it down a half step just to make sure that I could sing it at the time. But
Yeah,
whatever. It's all good.
there's some high notes
It's
in
all
that.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, what was your question?
No, I guess I was just going through random questions and that was one of the ones I was going to ask you about is just
Oh,
how
really?
about Letterman and just being on and he did Jimmy Fallon too.
Can I just do one of these things where I like show the process?
Yeah. Go for it.
I think that'd be funny or fun. I'm
Yes.
just gonna like put a bridle on this horse.
Oh.
There we go. It needs a bridle. It's been acting rather unbridled lately.
The inner
My
Bob
dad
Ross.
humor. My dad. Yeah, Bob Roth, man. What a
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Not that we know much about him, but there we go. Here's a happy little bridal for you.
Yes. And
Bridal and groom.
we can you post your work for sale or you just display it at a
Yeah, this is for sale. This is all for sale. I mean, maybe I should be better at marketing. I'm not that great at it,
yeah.
but yes, this is all for sale. You
Do you
can
mind
you
like
can
sending me
purchase these
like
online.
links or anything in Facebook? I can.
Absolutely. I mean, it is just conradkeely.com
Okay.
for my website, but and my Instagram is just Conrad Keely.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't go for those monikers.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Cool.
I did a art show recently out in LA, and that was fun. Oh, look at that! I just made that circle. That came out all right. I'll just
Let me
do the
know
other part of it.
if you're coming
Whoop.
out to
There you go.
LA or California anytime soon. I'd love to check out.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. It's crazy because we went and took a hike around like fucking Altadena when we were there, and up to Millard Falls and stuff, and to hear the news recently and to find out, like that whole area is fucking gone. It was like, whoa, it's
Yeah.
heavy. Yeah. So
Have you
glad
seen
you're
it
safe.
personally, or you just when you just saw like the news, or
Yeah. But then I made a map because we drove there, and I made a map to like superimpose the route that we took over the satellite imagery of the fire. And I was just like, yeah, everything that we drove past that day was gone, like just gone. And so that was kind of a unique experience because you don't really have that, like when you're on vacation and a couple months later you look back and like, oh yeah, that town we went to is no longer there. It's crazy.
yeah, no,
So
imagine. Yeah,
heavy, heavy stuff.
pretty wild.
But yeah,
I'm
let's
gonna
pick this
go.
up again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will. Yeah, I'll message you on Facebook. We'll figure out another time to do it. But honestly, though, I super, super appreciate you taking your time out of your day. I mean, I'm just a random guy on
Sure.
Facebook, and I think the
Is this
first.
going to be on video?
What part?
The whole thing?
Yeah, I can put. I'll send you a link to the video, and I don't know if you want to like check it out. Like, oh, I want to take this part out or something like that. Like, yeah,
Oh no, no, keep it all. Keep it all. Keep it all
yeah.
in there. I wouldn't have said it
Raw,
if I wanted you to take it out.
raw, uncut. Conrad Keely.
Yeah.
Nice. Hey, hey, man, that's gonna be the thumbnail right there.
Yeah, do that. Use that.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you get back to your mom. Again, thank you so much. This is like, again, I'm still kind of like pinching myself because I've listened to your music for so much. Like the every note in the album of especially source tags is like literally tattooed on my brain. Like I know every little flourish that's coming. So uh, thank you so
What an
much.
unusual place for a tattoo.
Yeah.
Cool,
And it's
man.
nice
All right.
to put a face to the music and see that you're just a human being.
I am. I am. At least
Yeah,
from the waist up.
that's right. I don't want to. I don't know what's going on down there, man. So,
All right, brother. Have a good
we'll
one.
keep in touch. Thank you so much. We'll see you.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.